Let's start there with our first guest, Senator Dave McCormick. Actually, Senator McCormick, first I want to ask you, did you guys get a lot of trick-or-treaters this year?
We did get some trick-or-treaters, and I'm a father of 6 daughters, Dina and I, and that is one cute little bird you got there, so congratulations.
Thank you very much. So the news of the day, the most visible sign of the shutdown for people outside the Beltway, the strain on the air traffic control system. It has been a month since air traffic controllers got paid. 80% of them were absent this week at New York area facilities. Has the shutdown finally made it unsafe to fly?
Yeah, I mean, Peter, this is, I'm a business person. I've been in business for, 25, 30 years. I've never seen anything like this. It's really complete madness and disgraceful. The idea that you would, for 33 days, hold the government hostage to try to get your political goals in place while millions of people aren't getting paid, some of them in these incredible stressful jobs, like the air traffic controller, like the Border Patrol, like our military. And then now we're on the verge of 42 million people not receiving SNAP benefits. These are people who are literally depending on these SNAP benefits for food, 2 million of them in Pennsylvania. So we are at the point where people are really being hurt by the Schumer shutdown. And this is pretty straightforward. We need to vote to open up the government. Republicans have done that 14 times. The Democrats have resisted that 14 times. And we need to get on with the business of the government, and including whatever discussions and negotiations are going to be about extending the COVID Obamacare subsidies. But we got to get the government open. That's our first responsibility.
And to do that, President Trump is telling you guys in the Senate to use the nuclear option, basically just nuke the rules that have always run the Senate and end the shutdown like that without any Democrats. Are you going to do it?
Well, listen, that's tempting because we're all so frustrated that people are being hurt. And President Trump said that. My friend and fellow Senator Fetterman said that. I mean, I think we need to keep the pressure on the Democrats. This is their shutdown. They are standing in the way of innocent people getting the food that they need. And listen, just imagine a world where there's no filibuster and you have the crazy radical part of the Democratic Party in charge. We would become a country of socialism. So listen, that's going to be an ongoing discussion about the filibuster. I think the pressure should be on the Democrats to open up the government. And listen, who are they doing this for? The federal government, the Federal Workers Union, the Teamsters, the air traffic controllers, everybody involved is saying, open up the government and let's get on with the business of the people of our great country.
And just with this nuclear option ending the filibuster, you said it's tempting, but it doesn't sound like you're there yet. The president is the leader of the whole party. Well, if Republicans in the Senate can't figure out a different way to end the shutdown, is there a harm in trying it the president's way?
Well, listen, I don't think, based on what I've heard, that there are votes to do that in the Senate. But listen, the pressure should be on the Democrats to actually open up the government. I say it's tempting, and I know the president's frustrated. I think we're all frustrated. You see people being hurt, and that's the disgrace. And the Democrats can end that momentarily by just voting to open up the government, as Republicans did 13 times during the Biden administration. So I think we got to make sure the focus is on the basic responsibility of us all in the Senate, which is to keep the government open. And by the way, I'd say that if the Democrats were in the majority and the Democrats were in the White House.
The day after tomorrow, there are going to be some big elections in big states, including yours, Pennsylvania. Do you see these elections, based on everything that's going on, as a referendum on President Trump?
Well, I think there'll be elections this week. There'll be elections, obviously, in 2026. And I think, big picture, there's two things that are very much in the favor of Republicans and President Trump and his agenda. Number one, he is doing and we are doing what we said we would do. We're stopping the flow of illegal drugs into the country. 4,000 fentanyl deaths last year in Pennsylvania. We're opening up energy. Huge deal for Pennsylvania. Creates millions of jobs, energy dominance. We're embracing the technology revolution. We're bringing manufacturing home. We're dealing with crime. So I think the president's delivering on his agenda, and that's the common sense agenda. And then second, I think the Democrats are showing themselves to be really hijacked by this radical left wing. And we see this in the New York mayoral race. We see this in the government shutdown, where the Democrats have lost the thread of a common sense party to lead the country forward. And I think those two things are very much in our favor. this Tuesday and in 2026.
And you mentioned New York there. Top Democrats are in need of a national party standard bearer. They think that they might have found one in Zohran Mamdani, who got the SNL treatment last night. We have a clip.
I want to be mayor so I can deliver a better New York. Free healthcare, affordable housing, free Wi-Fi. As mayor, can I make that happen? I'm not sure yet. But together we're gonna find out that the answer is no.
So the polls are tightening in New York. Do you see Mamdani as a punchline, or is he the future of the other party?
Well, I hope for the sake of our country, he's not the future of the Democratic Party. I think we need a healthy Democratic Party that can be supporting sensible things. I think his positions, the basic thing I said, the numbers don't add up. There's no way to do the things he's saying. It'll be a disaster for New York, one of the great cities in the world. And if they choose to elect him as mayor, I think it's going to be devastating. It'll be an experiment we can all see firsthand. I hope you'll have me back on the show and we can evaluate where that is 2 years from now. But socialism has time and again ended up in the dustbin of history. We see Europe lagging behind America in so many ways because capitalism has been the way to bring opportunity to the most amount of people, to bring people out of poverty. If this anti-Semitic socialist agenda wins in New York, I think it's going to be a bad day for New York and the Democratic Party.
Well, we're not going to wait till the midterms to have you back, Senator McCormick. Thank you very much for being here today, though.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.